Welcome to Beacon of Truth with your host, Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Beacon of Truth. I'm your host, Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, and you're listening on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. So great to be here with you today. Boy, do we have a lot to cover today. Today's topic is going to be really interesting. It's about the seal of confession. You know, there's a number of states that are trying to pass laws that are going to basically trying to force priests to break the seal of confession when someone confesses that they've abused a child. Now, I totally get the sentiment of what they're trying to do everything possible to protect children, but the seal of confession is inviolable. So is the church living up to its obligations to protect children when someone confesses something like that and the priest can't break the seal? How about this? Is there ever a time where the priest can withhold absolution? Where, in other words, the guy confesses, the priest can say, no, I'm not absolving you of this sin. Is there ever a time that a priest can do that? You know, maybe in a sense to get the person to turn themselves in, if you will. You know, woo, boy, this is going to be very interesting today. In fact, if you're listening in a parish, you're working in a parish office or you're doing some volunteer work at the parish and there's a priest around, during the last part of the show, after the Soulful Psalms segment, if there's a priest around, I would love to get his take on this issue of absolution. Just would love for a priest to call. In fact, if a priest calls in, we're going to put that call at the top of the list for sure. Right? The priest is going to be at the top of the list because I think this is a very, very important thing that we need to talk about today. Again, would love to hear from you. Give us a call. We'll talk about this issue. It's extremely important. 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. The other thing that you notice if you're watching on the Facebook Live or on YouTube, that yes, you're seeing correctly. I'm wearing glasses. Yes, I got my glasses a couple of days ago. I'm still getting used to them. I don't have to wear them all the time. And the strange thing about getting used to them is not just the way they feel on my face, like getting used to having something on my face, but their transitions. And so like they're like trifocal. So like the top part is like for distance. The middle part is like for like computer kind of work. And then the last part is for reading, like more up close. And so I'm trying to, so if I'm moving my head back and forth, I'm trying to find that sweet spot, you know, for the glasses. So I'm still getting used to all of this. But my wife likes them. She thinks I look smart or think I look nice. I don't know. I just, like I said, I'm not going to wear these all the time. So if I don't wear them on the show, that's why. So I got the glasses and I got a chance to wear them for the first time during a speaking engagement yesterday. I had the great honor and privilege of being in Irving, Texas yesterday. And I spoke at Cistercian Preparatory School, an all-boys school run by Cistercian monks of the Common Observance. Now, I stayed at Cistercian monasteries before, and I'm used to dealing with Cistercians of the strict observance, but colloquially known as Trappists. Okay, these are the guys that don't have an active apostolate. They basically live in seclusion, and they make some Cistercians make caskets, some make beer. Some make honey, or they, different things that they sell in order to sustain themselves and maintain their life in the monastery. So I'm used to those, but I've never run into any common observance Cistercians. So these are Cistercians, and they were giving me the history yesterday. They were founded from Hungary. So some Hungarian monks came over after the persecution of Hungary. They came over and founded, first of all, the University of Dallas, and then also Cistercian Preparatory School. And so they dress like Cistercians, except they don't have the capuche, which is the hood. They just have a collar, which is very interesting. In fact, they told me they're the only common observant Cistercians in the entire United States. So it's my first time interacting with the, and here's the awesome, there's 32 of them, and they got 7 vocations last year. There's 7 that are in novitiate right now. And they said, I think 3 more coming in this year. So they're doing very, very well with vocations. And again, these are sisters at the common observance. They have active apostolates. And so, they have a rich prayer life, but they also balance that with teaching. And by the way, all of the monks are priests. So in this order of sisters, there's no like brother. You can remain a brother. All of the men that join eventually become priests and teachers. So this is this particular group in Texas as our teaching order. Just really, and they were such great guys, so gracious. I want to thank Father Paul, who's the headmaster of the school, for inviting me to come and speak there. I had a great time. The kids were, I spoke to 7th to 12th grade about authentic Catholic masculinity, and it was fabulous. The kids were very attentive, very respectful. I got a tour of the school, and I love visiting Catholic schools that are embracing their Catholic identity. So again, thank you so much to Cistercian Preparatory School in Irving, Texas, for welcoming me so warmly yesterday. And speaking of warmly, it ain't warm here in Portland. It is snowing. This doesn't happen often, and it's accumulating too. It's not just like, just a dusting. Now the wind is blowing, that east wind out of the gorge. When that blows, it just blows the snow all over the place. And so it looks in some spots it's piling up, so some spots it's kind of like, just like a dusting because of the wind. But in my backyard, that's not affected by the wind. There's a couple inches of snow on my deck and in the backyard. In fact, the twins are going to go out and build a snowman in a little bit. So very interesting. My wife, of course, is in heaven. She loves the snow, and she's just in heaven. Me, not so much. I'm not much of a snow person, and that's one of the reasons I don't mind the rain in Oregon, because you don't have to shovel rain, right? So yeah, lots going on. Lots to talk about. Great topic today. We also have a listener question. Again, I want to encourage you, email me, email the show, beacon@EWTN.com. If we're talking about something you're not able to get your call in on the show, and you have a question, follow-up question, just email us, beacon@EWTN.com, and I'll answer your question on the show. And so we had a question come in the other day when I was talking about the show was about the Book of Blessings. He said, so the person that wrote in said, I know you're discussing the Book of Blessings, but since you brought up playing the bass at praise and worship, how can I broach the subject with our pastor that younger people really enjoy other types of musical worship and more upbeat music? After the church was given a facelift and the organ repaired, the other forms of music went away. The retired priest that assists on weekends has mentioned in his homilies that the folk mass was his favorite when he was a pastor at another parish. I have a 36-year-old daughter who went to another parish because of this and feel others are following suit. All right, so there's an issue with the music. So here's the thing. What I found that pastors are trying to balance this in their parishes. Because here's the thing about the music. As long as the music is directed toward the worship of God, right? That's not like worshiping myself, or I'm building the city of God or something like that, or some kind of heresy, like when give us the bread, when we drink the wine of grace. It's not wine, it's the body, it's the blood of Christ. So what I found, again, I'm not speaking for all parishes, but there's some parishes, for example, here's the model. Like if there's an early mass, like 7 a.m. mass on Sunday, usually it has no music. Right, so people just come. They want to. They come. There's no music. It's just straight mass, and then like maybe a couple masses in the morning. Those maybe have a choir. Some of the choirs may be more like a folk choir. Another choir may be more of a polyphonic choir, more of a choral kind of arrangement. And usually if there's a mass in the evening, it's kind of like the team mass or the life team mass or whatever. And obviously there's that type of praise and worship music there. So I think the priests and parishes are trying to balance, that everybody, without isolating people or pushing people away, there's something for everybody. And I think that's what priests are trying to strive for, that balance with the music in the parish. And so I would go to a mass at that parish that has the kind of music that you like. And sadly, going to another parish, breaking away from your community, if the music is that important. Remember, you're there for Jesus. You're not there for the music. You're there for Jesus Christ. But if that's such an inhibitor to you that you can't immerse yourself in the life of the parish because of that, then maybe going to another parish is the way to go. But have a conversation with the priest about it, and bring other parishioners with you so it doesn't feel like you're ganging up on them, all right? All right, we're talking about the seal of confession today. We'd love to hear from you. Give us a call, my friends, 833-288-EWTN.
The most original Catholic content is on EWTN Radio.
On EWTN News in Depth, birthright citizenship is caught in a legal battle. Expert analysis and personal stories from a Catholic perspective. Plus, the Order of Love, how U.S. politics put an early church father's teaching in the spotlight.
Join us for EWTN News in Depth tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on EWTN Radio and television.
Teresa Tomeo and Italy's Shrines and Wonders.
Civita, Bagno Reggio, the dying city that has come back to life. The Civita is in northern Lazio, close to the Umbrian border, and is called the dying city because the hill on which it's built is made of clay that continues to crumble. The area around it is also known as Italy's Badlands, thanks to the erosions. To reach the ancient village connected to St. Bonaventure, who was born there, you must cross a pedestrian bridge that stretches out below the town and across the mysterious valley. And once through the main gate, you step back in time to a place that thoroughly maintains its medieval character. The Civita's unique beauty has brought it back to life, as many visitors pay a small fee to cross into this special place, with the money going to the Civita's preservation.
Italy's Shrines and Wonders by Teresa Tomeo is available now at EWTNRC.com.
Still jam in your glasses. Don't let anybody tell you differently.
I like that bass in the background.
Yeah.
Like the movement.
Yeah. Double time. Here we go.
Double time. Yeah. Oh, hold on. Oh, that's cool. I'm rocking out too a little bit there. That's
all
awesome.
you need.
Like I was telling you, I gotta fix this signal chain problem with my rig.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was playing with my son the other day, and I just turned the amp off, put the guitar down, walked away, didn't touch anything. Came back early today, turned on the amp, picked up the axe, and then nothing. I'm like, what the heck? So there's got to be, and when I plug it directly into the amp, it works. So there's got to be a signal chain
for sure
problem in there. So I gotta track that down, spend time doing that.
Hey, at least it's not a leak in the plumbing,
Yeah, that's right. Or a gas leak or something, right?
It's like your snow to rain analogy. It's, what's a bigger problem? Water flooding in my house, or an amp, or a cord that needs replacing?
I'm hoping I don't have to go out and shovel anything. I'm hoping that that it does in the front yard where more of the wind, that it blows everything around, so I don't have to shovel. And we don't have a shovel, so that's the other thing too.
Right. You have to makeshift. Yeah.
Yeah. So get the broom out or something. I don't know. But so I think my daughter's classes are canceled today for college because the things are closed. The roads are, not many people are out. So, one of those days, rare, snowy, wintry day in Portland today.
I think you'll manage. You'll be all right.
Yeah.
You got your glasses now. You can see it.
That's right. And again, for those of you who are joining the show a little bit late, as you can see on YouTube and Facebook Live, I'm wearing my glasses, and they're transitions. So if my head is moving around, I'm not bobbing to the beat of music. I'm trying to get the sweet spot for the transition so I can actually see the words. So I won't be wearing these every day because I don't need to wear them for the show, but I will be wearing them regularly, speaking engagements and things like that. A new phase of life, I guess, for me now.
You'll also realize the amount of headaches that go away. Like, you don't realize how much of your headaches are
most of my headaches are people in my life.
I'm not sorry, not sorry.
Go away with the glasses.
It only helps you build your testimony.
Oh, man. All right, you listen to Beacon of Truth. I'm your host, Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, and today we're talking about an awesome topic, the seal of confession. There are a number of states where they're trying to pass legislation to force a priest to break the seal of confession when it comes to reporting child abuse. Right. And so I totally get that sentiment. I understand what the states are trying to do, but the seal of confession is inviolable. So is the church actually cooperating and allowing this to continue by not breaking the seal? And is there ever a time when the priest does not grant absolution? So the person confesses something like, I killed someone, and can the priest say, well, wait a minute, until you turn yourself in, then I can't give you absolution for that. Because the person said, well, if I get absolution, that means I don't have to turn myself in because God's forgiven me. So, oh, yikes, that is some interesting territory. And again, if there's a priest listening, or if you're in a parish, there's a priest around, I would love to get his take on both of these issues, the seal of confession and whether you can withhold absolution. But that's what we're talking about today on Beacon of Truth. We talk about important stuff. 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. Well,
if you're looking for something to do tonight, Father Gerald Murray, who you heard earlier from EWTN Open Line, he is joining Raymond Arroyo for the world over tonight at 8 Eastern. Going to be talking about the Pope's letter to the U.S. bishops, as well as talking about Trump's administration and all the things happening with new bishops entering into Detroit and Cincinnati area. So find out more tonight with Raymond Arroyo and the world over, 8 Eastern on EWTN TV and radio.
It's now time for the Soulful Psalms segment of Beacon of Truth. This is where we take some of the Psalms from the wisdom literature of the Old Testament and we connect the Psalm to your everyday lived experience. We hear these Psalms at each and every holy sacrifice of the Mass. And the best part is you can listen to the Soulful Psalms as its own podcast. You can go to Podcast Central at the EWTN website, or as I do, download and listen on the EWTN app, which is awesome, by the way. Or you can listen on your favorite podcast platform like SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, and listen to the Soulful Psalms every single day. Today, we're going to continue our look at Psalm 31. So Psalm 31 is in Book 1 of the Psalms, which is Psalms 1 to 41. All the Psalms in Book 1 are attributed to David. Like I said, we already started looking at this Psalm. We're going to pick up at verse 10. Now, the prescript or superscript of this Psalm says in Hebrew, Lemenzeach Mizmor David, or for the choir master, a Psalm of David. So David wrote this Psalm, gave it to the choir master to put music to. And again, this Psalm started out, typical David, in you, O Lord, I take refuge. Let me never be put to shame. Right? And so instead of complaining about something that's going on in his life, he starts out saying, Lord, you are my refuge, you are my strength, you are my hope, you are my joy. In you I find my peace, in you I find my purpose. Then he goes on to complain, right? But he starts off giving that honor and praise to God first. So you pick up at verse 10, Psalm 31. Have mercy on me, O Lord, for I am in distress. My eyes are wasted with grief, my soul and my body. Right? So sometimes we're dealing with grief, we're dealing with pain, we're dealing with stress that affects our entire being. So look at David. It's not just his soul, but his body. He's being physically affected by what's going on in his life. Man, that happens to so many of us. Ace was talking before about getting headaches. Stress is a big cause of headaches and physical illness. Because what's going on in your soul, your body manifests that. So there's pains and there's aches and there's nerve things and there's all kinds of things that happen as a result of stress or things that we're trying to deal with. The body is affected by that. And whatever's happening to David is happening to him both in his soul and in his body. He's crying. His eyes are wasted with grief. He's in continual state of sorrow with whatever's going on. And he's crying out to the Lord for mercy, right? Now, it's interesting. The word here is not the typical hesed, which means the loving mercy of God. It's raham, which is more of pity, like having mercy on someone because you pity them. That's the word that's used here for mercy. Because 3 different words for mercy, right? There's hesed, which is merciful love. There's ahava, which is emotional mercy, like emotional kind of love. And then there's raham, which is pitiful. Like you see a homeless person, like your heart goes out to them. That's the mercy of pitying, that kind of thing. And that's the word that's used here. So, Lord, have pity on me in your love for what I'm going through. And then he continues, for my life is spent with sorrow and my years with sighs. Right? So he's talking about this elongated period of trial. And so, especially people that deal with chronic illness, that deal with constant physical pain, that have to deal with a child who may be going through some developmental disabilities or developmental delays. This is something you're not dealing with in a moment or in the months. This is year after year after year, right? Or dealing with a sick parent, whatever it may be. And so David's talking about this elongated time of, and sometimes, yes, we have to accept the crosses that were given by our Lord, and we accept them lovingly. I'm not saying not to do that. But at the same time, when you look around, you see other families or other couples with, that aren't dealing with the same things you're dealing with. There's a little bit of your heart sometimes like, gosh, I wish my situation was different. That's just a normal human feeling, normal human emotion. Doesn't mean of course, it doesn't mean you love your child any less, or that you're still grateful for that child, and and you have to deal with them a little differently than other parents might have to, and that could be, just being honest. There's a place of sorrow sometimes, because it feels like you're carrying that cross, carrying that burden, and David relates to that. He says, affliction has broken down my strength, and my bones waste away. When you're taking care of someone with special needs, or taking care of someone that's elderly, or taking care of a sick child, it's draining on you mentally, physically, emotionally, especially if it's something that's elongated, something that's going on for extending through an extended period of time. That's a difficult thing. And David's not shying away from that. It's okay to feel this affliction and this, and to feel the emotion and the heaviness of that cross sometimes. And he continues, because of all my foes, I have become a reproach, an object of scorn to my neighbors, and of fear to my friends. Right? So it's not just that he's feeling the heaviness, he's feeling the burden of it. Other people are mocking him for what he's going through. So it's just what he's experiencing mentally, physically, and emotionally is even worse and exacerbated by the slander of the people that are around him. He goes, those see me in the street, flee from me. Right? I mean, they won't have nothing to do with me. They want no. So instead of being that consoling person in their life, to help to bring them some peace and comfort, or you may be helping to assist that person in their time of trouble, these people run away. He goes, I am forgotten like someone dead, and have become like a broken vessel. Right? So a broken vessel can't hold water, can't hold wine, can't hold anything. You pour it in, it just runs right out. It's useless. And that's what David is feeling. Whatever it is that he's going through, he's feeling the heaviness of it, both internally and from outside. He can't get any relief, and again, this is a psalm, again, if you're enduring something right now that's heavy, and David is just saying, feel the heaviness of it. Don't push it away. Don't pretend. Don't try to cover it over. No, sometimes it's okay to feel the heaviness. Jesus felt the heaviness of the cross and fell 3 times. Right? But he got up and he kept moving. And sometimes the weight of what we're dealing with, yes, it feels heavy. Yes, it feels onerous. Yes, it feels burdensome. And sometimes we fall under that weight. And that's okay. It's okay. We get up and we keep moving forward. Right? That's the hope that David. So David is and the Lord knows all this. David knows the Lord knows all this already. But we're in a relationship, sometimes we need to tell someone how we feel. They may know how we feel intuitively, but it's still good to sometimes express and to say how we feel. This is something that wives are asking from their husbands all the time. Tell me how you feel. Tell me how you feel. And, guys are like, can't you just see how I feel? No. Sometimes you need to say the words, right? Sometimes you need to actually say it. Let the other person know how you're feeling. This is what David is doing. He's letting God know how he's feeling. Beautiful. Well, we're going to get to verse 13 today, and that's okay. We'll pick up on that psalm another time. But today, we're talking about the seal of confession. Really important topic today. Again, if you're a priest, I would love for you to call in. We'll put your call at the top of the calls. 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. If you missed any of today's show, or want to share it with someone, you can find Beacon of Truth on demand at EWTN.com/radio.
With news from EWTN's Vatican Bureau, you can watch all of the important events from Rome, even if you don't have TV access. Using the latest technology, we've made it possible to watch the latest news from the Holy See, all delivered directly to your home via live streams. Watch live on EWTN's YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and X.
Join Archbishop Jose Gomez in sharing the good news.
Jesus Christ is always there when we cry out to Him. Even when our faith is weak in difficult times, the hand of Christ will be there always to catch us. That's the reality of our lives. It's challenging trying to follow Jesus Christ. We're weak. We have our own struggles, and sometimes we fall and doubt. But Jesus is always there. When we have troubles, when temptations and trials come, we need to have total confidence in God. Let's ask for that grace to always trust in Him.
Visit lacatholics.org to find ways to connect with our faith community in the Archdiocese of Los Angeles.
EWTN, the Global Catholic Network.
Hi, this is Cy Kellett. We've got 2 hours with Tim Staples later today on Catholic Answers Live. Call in. You can ask him anything. Catholic Answers Live, 6 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio. Now, back to Beacon of Truth with Deacon Harold.
Yeah.
He's using that bow across this.
Yeah, it does sound like that, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm guessing. Again, not a guitar player.
Yeah, that's not that often. I mean, obviously Jimmy Page made that really popular.
Sure. Or maybe it's straight up strings and they just mixed it.
Yeah.
Play what they play. Okay.
Well, with the technology today, you can never tell.
Well,
that's why. Yeah. You're like, what are we listening to?
I would like to believe in this day and age that we are playing all organically made music.
Yes. Totally agree. All right. You're listening to Beacon of Truth. I'm your host, Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers. And today we're talking about the seal of confession. Really important topic today. And again, if there's a priest that's listening, or if you're working in the parish, there's a priest around, would love for him to call in. We'll put the priest call at the top and take that call, because I really would like to get a couple of perspective from a priest on this, but not only about the inviolability of seal of confession, but more importantly, can a priest ever withhold absolution for someone who comes in and makes a confession? Can he withhold absolution? Because in John 20, when Jesus, in the upper room, when he breathed on those 10 apostles says, receive the Holy Spirit, whose sins you forgive are forgiven, and whose sins you retain are retained. So Jesus gave authority to forgive sins, also to retain sin as well. When can a priest ever do that? Like someone comes in and confesses a murder. No, I'm not going to turn myself in, but I'm sorry for what I did. Can a priest withhold until the person does go and turn themselves in. I mean, just really interesting today. And we're talking about this because there are a number of states that are trying to change legislation that's forcing the priest to break the seal of confession. Would love to hear from you today, 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986.
Well, we're definitely doing a proverbial celebration, and cake is much as we can for a celebration of 10 years with Grants Pass, Oregon. Of course, His Mercy Radio doing their part to serve that area. And so as KJCR and Connie and the team there are celebrating, we celebrate with you from all of us at EWTN Radio.
All right. Great. At Grants Pass, that's way south near the California border.
Yeah.
Closer to the California border down there. So congratulations to my fellow Oregonians there. All right. Well, today we're talking about a really important topic today, the seal of confession. Again, if you're a priest, would love to hear from you. Give us a call to get your perspective on this. So why am I talking about this? My neighboring state, Washington, in the Spokane Diocese, the bishop there, Bishop Daley, was urging Catholic voters to oppose a proposed law that would force the priest to violate the seal of confession in cases where child abuse is revealed during the sacrament. All right. So the bill, which is in both houses of the legislature, would amend state law to require clergy to report instances of child abuse. Because right now, it recognizes the seal of confession, but they're trying to change the law that require clergy to report instances of child abuse with no exemption for instances where abuse is learned during the sacrament of reconciliation. All right? So that causes a huge problem for the church. Why? Canon law is very, very clear. So in Canon 983, it says, the sacramental seal is inviolable. Therefore, it is absolutely forbidden for a confessor to betray in any way a penitent in words or in any manner and for any reason. Okay? Very, very clear in canon law. The sacramental seal of confession is inviolable and cannot be broken for any reason whatsoever. In fact, it goes on in the next canon, 984, says a confessor is prohibited completely from using knowledge acquired from confession to the detriment of the penitent, even when any danger of revelation is excluded. All right? So, in other words, so the priest can't even use information without breaking the seal and revealing who the penitent was. He can't use any information that was revealed that may cause injury to the penitent, even without naming who the person is, for external governance. All right. In other words, for a litigation or some kind of legal action outside of the sacrament of reconciliation about the sin that they received in confession at any time. They can't even do that. Even if the person's remains anonymous, they still even can't reveal information about that. So that's how strict this is. Again, there's legislation in other states as well, besides Washington, that are trying to push this through. And that's why we're talking about this today. Because when you go to confession, you expect the priest to protect that seal of confession. But on the flip side, I mean, I understand the sentiment of states and legislators that are doing everything they can to protect children. And of course, the church is very aware of this because of the years of scandal that the church went through, and bankruptcies and payouts and all this kind of stuff. And some very strict guidelines are now in place to deal with all of that. We get it. But the one that has not changed or has never changed is the violation of the seal of confession. So that is, in fact, if the priest does violate the seal of confession is automatic excommunication. So Canon 1386 says, a confessor who directly violates the sacramental seal incurs a late sententiae excommunication reserved to the Holy See. In other words, that is an automatic, immediate excommunication. No trial, no due process, you're done. Simple as that. If they violate the seal in any way whatsoever, automatic excommunication, late sententiae, reserved to the Holy See. That means that the Pope is the one who has to remove that excommunication. He who does so indirectly is to be punished according to the gravity of the offense. Okay, so this is serious when it comes to the church and this issue of violating the seal of confession. So what's the balance here, right? How does the church continue to protect children, but you don't want to, in a sense, protect the person who's committing these acts, especially if they're going to continue to do them? Because I can tell you from a law enforcement perspective, the recidivism rate for child offenders is extremely high. In other words, the likelihood that they will offend again is extremely high for child abusers. So, a lot to think about here as we talk about this very, very important topic today about the seal, the sacredness of the seal of confession. Would love to hear your thoughts, especially if you're a priest. 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. Nathaniel is calling from Texas, and he's watching on YouTube. Nathaniel, welcome to Beacon of Truth.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you just fine.
I had a question about, so say somebody goes into a confession, they confess a crime, like say they murder somebody. Mm-hmm. Could the priest make the penance going and turning themselves into the police?
See, that's the question that I have, because here's the thing. If the person is coming into confession and they're making a confession, right, and it's protected by the seal, the canon law says if a confessor has no doubt about the disposition of the penitent and the penitent seeks absolution, absolution is to be neither refused nor deferred. Okay? So if the person comes in and the confessor believes that the person is absolutely penitent, that they really are sorry for what they did, and they're seeking absolution, absolution is to be neither refused or deferred. Now, in the case, like you said, a homicide or child molester, or perjury. I testified in court and I deliberately lied on the stand, and they confessed that. And again, that kind of thing could really affect someone's entire life. Because if they make the wrong, if they perjure themselves and they lie, and the person's found guilty and serves prison time or something like that, that's taking away someone's freedom because of that lie. So, because if we know what it feels like, Nathaniel, it feels like I can do whatever I want. I just have to go in the confessional, just confess this really egregious, serious sin, and God will forgive me, and I can get away with what I did. That's the tension that we're talking about here with all of this. You see, so I think I have the same question, Nathaniel. Like if someone comes in and confess a really grave crime, can the priest say, you know what, I'm going to withhold absolution. So in other words, I'm not going to give you the forgiveness of Jesus until you show you're sorry for what you did by going in and turning yourself in. See, that's the question. And, because it from everything that I've read on this, it looks like the priest has a lot of latitude. Now, it does say this, though, in the catechism. When particular grave sins, because certain sins that people commit incur excommunication. So if you murdered someone, you're excommunicated from the church. Like if you, in the situation you brought up, Nathaniel, if the person murders someone, they're automatically excommunicated from the church. If abortion, automatically excommunicated from the church, or something like that. So when there's sins that involve excommunication, where the person's excommunicated, because that impedes the reception of the sacrament, right? So in other words, because you're excommunicated, that impedes you, prevents you from receiving the sacrament. For therefore, absolution cannot be granted except by the Pope or if the priest bishop authorizes him to give the absolution. So that it's a very interesting area. And again, I'm bringing all this up because of legislation that's looking to be passed in some states that are trying to violate the seal of confession. But here's how the church shows the merciful love of God, Nathaniel. It also says that in danger of death, even if a priest is deprived of faculties. So in other words, a priest was removed from active ministry. He's still a priest. He just has no faculties to function as a priest. Even a priest in that situation can absolve sins. And it says it can absolve from every sin and excommunication. Right? So, wow. I mean, a lot of latitude, a lot of kind of pastoral thinking here. So, my sense would be, Nathaniel, that if I were a priest in that situation, if the person I murdered someone, they're automatically excommunicated. So they, in a sense, they can't receive then the sacrament, which means they can't receive absolution. Unless the bishop gives some kind of permission for that. But my sense would be, again, my judgment's clouded because I have my law enforcement background. I would want that person to make things right. If you're really sorrowful, either turn yourself in and accept the consequence of your action. Because therefore you go through that process and God will forgive you because you're doing the right thing. But whether that's actually the case, I think the priest has a lot of latitude there. So I can't really answer your question, although my sense would be that that's what I would want the person to do, to turn themselves in. But can I withhold absolution until they do that? I don't know. Like a child molester if they say, "Oh, I'm never going to do it again," I wouldn't believe them. Again, maybe I'm cynical because of my law and dealing with child molesters in my career. I'd be a little definitely skeptical about this, but that's why I want to hear from a priest. What would the priest do in that situation? So, does that at least help to think things through a little bit, Nathaniel?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, this is I'm so glad for your question, Nathaniel. This is a tough thing. And that's why I wanted to talk about this today, because it really is, in thinking about changing legislation, brings us to a little few dicey issues here in the life of the church. And I'm sure things like this don't happen that often, but in situations, again, where they're trying to change the law, in fact, the priest has to be willing to go to jail rather than violate the seal. So if this law was passed in a certain state, and the state says, well, if you don't follow this law, that means jail time, the priest would go to jail and the bishop would support him going to jail rather than violate the seal of confession. That's how serious this is. The priest's life could be turned completely upside down because he refuses to violate the seal. Now, I know, again, I don't watch television, but my wife likes to watch, Law and Order, right? And so I guess they had a thing on there, or on one of those shows where the priest was put into a situation where the police was investigating something. The priest knew who did it, and they wanted him to say, well, just tell us who did it. Well, I can't, because it was during confession and trying to deal with those kinds of things. But this is real life, And I think, I'm not sure what happened on the show. They probably nuanced something because it is television. So and television is not always friendly to the church, that's for sure. So they probably had some weird nuanced way to get out of it. But this is a really important issue. Again, a priest has a lot of latitude, but I'd love to hear from a priest perspective how they would deal with something like this. But thanks for your call, Nathaniel. Again, we're talking about the seal of confession today on Beacon of Truth. And I'm bringing this up because of legislation that's trying to be passed in some states where they're trying to force the priests to violate the seal of confession in order, to protect children. And I get that. And we all want to do what we can to protect children, but the seal of confession is inviolable. So would love to hear your thoughts. 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3989. 2986. It even says, like, if there's an interpreter, okay, like say the person is deaf and the priest can't do sign. If the interpreter is interpreting the sins there to the priest and then also interpreting the words of the priest back to the person, it says in canon law, the interpreter, if there is one, and all others who in any way have knowledge of sins from confession are also obliged to observe secrecy. Now, an interesting little side note here, that is often a joke among deacons, that we hear confessions all the time. We just can't give absolution. Because people will tell us things, sometimes serious things, you know, but it's not during confession. So I'm not under any obligation as a deacon to withhold information that I receive in a conversation, because I'm a mandatory reporter. So if someone reveals something to me that it causes a danger to themselves or others, I am obliged to report that. Because, again, not part of the seal of confession. So then I would be, again, obliged and obligated in a circumstance like that to reveal what I heard in that conversation. Okay, so but what we're talking about today is actual confession. This is a serious thing. You know, when can a priest withhold? When can't he? I mean, again, the idea is in these cases that the states are trying to do is protect children. But how can this work? You know, and these are tough subjects for priests to deal with. But canon law stipulates any priest who deliberately violates the seal of confession is automatically excommunicated. And the Bishop Daly in Spokane, where the latest attempt is to pass one of these laws, says we are committed to keeping the seal of confession even to the point of going to jail. He said that the diocese, of course, in every diocese, devotes considerable resources to child safety and holds a zero tolerance policy regarding child abuse. You know, and because of what's happened in the life of the church, I think the churches now, dioceses have some of the best child protection policies that are out there. Again, we're talking about the seal of confession. Other states that tried to pass this, Montana, Delaware, Vermont, were also states. I don't think it got anywhere in those states. I think it didn't get past the legislative process, but still, attempts are being made to violate the seal of confession in order to protect children. A very, very important issue we're talking about today on Beacon of Truth. We'd love to hear from you. Again, if you're a priest, we'd love to give some insight on this. We'll put you to the top of the calls, 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. Cecilia is calling from San Antonio, Texas, listening on Guadalupe Radio. Cecilia, welcome to Beacon of Truth.
Hi. I think it's just a wonderful subject right now of the confession. I think confession for us as a Catholic holds such power because I think we just cannot forget that we're not going to confess to just a priest. We're confessing to Jesus in persona. So the power that God holds in that moment on the person that already had his grievance to come and say this terrible thing that he has done, no matter what, you know, I think we just take it into a human level. What happened in confession is just a miracle. It's a transformation of the heart of the person. So what's going to happen in there is going to be big. It's not going to be just me tell me what happened, and then I'm like, oh, my goodness, I have to gossip about this, so I need to go tell them about it because this is terrible. No, this is in the hands of our Lord. This is something miracle is going to happen. You know, this is how I see it, that I think we should support and continually praying for a priest so they can never turn into this human person, listen something we had to follow, and we can never doubt that God prayed these, and he knew that things were going to happen like this because he knows everything. And the power that's going to happen in that moment is going to be big. And that person automatically, through the talk of Jesus, by himself does the right thing. So it's going to be a win situation. It's not about like, please tell me, and we need to put this person in jail. He's already living I imagine, a hell moment, you know, feeling uncomfortable. You know, that's how I think, and we should continue supporting what God left 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, I agree with you, Cecilia, but the thing is this. The person when you go into confession, you say that you are not going to put yourself in a situation where you'll be tempted to sin again. So if the person committed murder and say they're a serial, like they don't feel that they're apologizing, or someone comes and commits adultery, right? Violation of the 6th commandment. Someone comes in and commits adultery, and the priest says, "Well, are you going to break off?" No, I'm not. I'm just going to keep doing it. So can the priest withhold absolution because the person is they're not sorry? If the person comes out and said, I committed this horrible crime, I'm not really sorry because I think the person deserved it. I think in those cases, the priest can withhold absolution. Why? Because the person is not truly penitent and sorry for what they did. Right? So that's what we're talking about. That's what we're wrestling with today. But great calls to see you. We're talking about the Seal of Confession today on Beacon of Truth. Let's go to Suzanne calling from British Columbia, our neighbors to the north. She's watching on EWTN.com. Suzanne, welcome to Beacon of Truth.
Oh, thank you. Nice to be here. I was just wanting to point out that it has, like, the truths of purgatory have been revealed. For instance, there's a YouTube channel called Uniquely Mary that you can just watch these videos from saints that have revealed truths about purgatory, including St. Catherine of Siena, that basically if people don't repent in this life properly, they will suffer way, way more in the afterlife. And there's one recount of a person that said that he would rather be flayed alive for 10,000 years than what he was suffering in purgatory.
Wow.
So it's like, if somebody commits a murder, it is better for them to go to jail in this life because that shows that they are, like, truly penitent and that, that basically they are going to atone and work off their punishment and really be living in true communion with God. But people are so attached to their life. So if they've done this horrible thing, it means that they weren't in a state of grace. They were living, basically the devil was in control of them because they weren't properly receiving the sacraments. So it's all very difficult because, hopefully they would come to that conclusion on their own that it's better for them to go to confession and to turn themselves in. But I think that God doesn't want, like, the church must have available to human beings, God's presence in the sacrament of confession. And if you take away the seal of confession, then people would be too afraid to go to confession.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. I'm not talking about breaking the seal of confession. I mean, I stand with the heart and the mind of the church on this. But I'm bringing up some issues that a person looking from the outside, looking in, and says, yeah, I get that because other religions have certain things that are inviolable to them as well, but in certain cases can it be withheld. So the answer, of course, is no. But the priest in certain cases can withhold absolution. But we can't get to Brian in Montana. He said, what do you mean a priest can't withhold absolution? It says, again, Canon 980, Brian, if a confessor has no doubt about the disposition of the penitent. So if the priest has doubt that the penitent is actually sorry for the sin or there's a strong likelihood they'll commit it again, he can withhold absolution. But that canon says if there's no doubt about the disposition, the penitent seeks absolution, that it cannot be refused or deferred. Wow, great conversation today. Now remember, you can stream today's show by going to Podcast Central, EWTN.com/radio. May Almighty God bless you, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen.